Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. And again, this week we are going for a wander round paradise. Apologies, last week we didn't make it to Celtic Park due to the bad winds, but we're back today and we're talking about transfer windows. We're talking about 6 victories in a row, and specifically the performance at the weekend against Ross County, because although it was half a dozen wins on the bounce, there was quite a lot of unhappy spectators here at Celtic Park at the weekend due to the performance. So what has gone wrong with that? There seems to be a lack of bite, a lack of tempo, and I'm not just talking about the performance on the park. I think off the park, when Brendan Rodgers is speaking about it, he seems to be a little bit deflated at the moment. Has that got something to do with the lack of transfer activity this January? Well, there's only a few days left before the transfer window slams shut, and we'll know by then whether or not we've got more acquisitions than the one we currently have in the door in Nicolas Kuhn, the winger that we have purchased from Rapid Vienna. So what was the issue at the weekend? We win the game. That's the most important thing. The 3 points are on the board. We maintain our position at the top of the league. But the performance wasn't great. And I think that when you look at any of the positions on the park, when we lose a player like Greg Taylor at left back, for example, there's often a drop-off in quality to their replacement, and at the weekend it was Alexandro Bernabei. That's not to say that I'm blaming him for the performance, but I think if Taylor or Joe Hart or Kyogo Furuhashi or even Callum McGregor get injured, miss a game, there is a drop-off in quality, and quality has been that magical word that Brendan Rodgers has used time and time again this season. And have we brought in enough? Well, certainly not in the January transfer window. We'll be looking at where else we need to strengthen, but I'm not fully confident that there's going to be many more in the door going by what Brendan Rodgers says. At the weekend, I felt we were predictable. We lacked tempo. There was no real creativity. We seemed quite easily defended against. And when you're winning 1-0, there's always that opportunity, I think, even for a team like Ross County, to break away and score a goal against Celtic. So worrying times at the weekend. The fans were not best pleased, and Brendan Rodgers spoke about that after the game. What we're going to do to improve it? We've got a tough run of fixtures coming up just after the transfer window slams shut. Do we have enough to get us through this season and win the league? Throughout this season, I've spoken about a Jekyll and Hyde characteristic that Celtic seem to have. Sometimes we'll go out there and we perform really, really well, and then you get a game like the weekend there against Ross County, against stubborn opposition where every single point is a prisoner for a team like that, really making sure that they stay in the league, and we fail to perform to the best of our ability. And it's difficult to watch that and come up with a reason as to why that is. Part of it is due to the opposition and the way that they set up, of course it is, but we need to have enough in our locker to be able to break these teams down and to do it with a bit of style. I think this is the big issue. We've not been a great watch in many of the games this season. There was one occasion, just as an example, at the weekend there where Callum McGregor gets the ball, he's looking to transition to attack, and he instantly looks up to the left wing position. And if you look at what he was doing in the last couple of seasons under Ange Postecoglou, he would have had Jota up there, he would have probably had Greg Taylor overlapping Jota. But when he looks up, the frustration, you can actually see it in the captain, that there is no out ball. Luis Palma is not there for him, and Alexandro Bernabei was not there for him, and he was so frustrated. You could see that when he then gives the ball to one of his teammates, he's frustrated that the ball wasn't on. What that does though, because the tempo is lost, is it allows a team like Ross County or Livingston or Dundee or St Mirren to regroup. They've been working on their defensive shape all week, and if we don't break them down quickly and with that level of tempo, then it gives them the opportunity to regroup, and that's exactly what's been happening against opposition like Ross County. The fans were unhappy at the end of the game, and I think we're entitled to be unhappy. Brendan Rodgers spoke about that as well, and I think a lot now hinges on whether or not Celtic get a couple of bodies in, because otherwise, and if we don't and we go for the rest of the season with the squad that we've got, I think there's going to be more weekends like the one we've just experienced. All eyes are now on the recruitment here at Celtic Park. With just a few days left, it doesn't look as though we're going to get much movement. And that's a huge disappointment from a Celtic perspective, not because we're getting greedy, but because it's pretty clear that we do need extra quality in the side. For me, I think we still need to strengthen at left back. We need to strengthen up top, centre forward, and we need to strengthen in the goalkeeper area. But it doesn't look as though we're going to get those three in. If we're going to get any in, is doubtful as well. I mentioned earlier on about Callum McGregor looking for an out ball in the left wing area. I think the same thing's happening with Kyogo. He's making the same runs that he was making last season, but the quality in terms of the distribution hasn't been there. We haven't found these runs, and then he's looking like an isolated figure up top, barely getting the ball, barely getting a chance. He has shown his quality this season in the games against Rangers in the Champions League, but day to day, week to week, he's not getting the service that he deserves and the service that he needs to show us what a talisman he can be for Celtic. There's a point I was making over the weekend because we had the great delight of being joined on stage on Friday night in Greenock at the Beacon Arts Centre by the one and only Martin O'Neill. And I know that the investment on the park under O'Neill was probably the biggest investment we've ever had in terms of one single manager. And some people complain about the fact that we overspent. There was no sell-on value in terms of the players that he had. They were all on big wages, and then we had to tighten our belt afterwards. But the angle I would take it from is that when you look at the success that we've had since Martin O'Neill, and you look at the success or lack of that we had prior to Martin O'Neill, then often it would be, for me, a good idea to invest on the park. You look what Martin O'Neill did in the 18 seasons since Martin O'Neill left the club. We have won the league 14 times. We've won 5 doubles, 5 trebles, a quadruple treble, and we've been in the group stages of the Champions League on 5 occasions, and we've got into the last 16 on another 3 occasions. 9 in a row. You look at the success, it's 2 decades of dominance, so you can invest in the park for 3 to 5 years, and then you see what happens in the aftermath of that. And I think that that's an example that the Celtic board really need to take note of. They might point to the fact that we've invested £20 million in summer, but those signings were not immediate successes. They were not assets that could go straight into the team and make a massive difference. If we go through this transfer window, it'll be 4 transfer windows in a row without a great deal of success. You look at the team at the weekend, the regular player is Alistair Johnston. The regular player who's getting a game every single week when everybody's fit is Alistair Johnston from the last 4 transfer windows, and that's not good enough. So the question will need to be asked after this transfer window closes as to whether or not we've got it right in terms of recruitment. So we're unhappy with the recruitment, and I think that Brendan Rodgers will be unhappy as well. The big concern there, of course, is that was one of the biggest reasons, if not the main reason, that Brendan Rodgers left first time round. So that's a concern. And when people say to me, throwing £5 million at a player doesn't guarantee success, the 2 names that are used all the time are Yeti and Barkas, that's fair enough. But we spent £6 million on Jota and £6 million on Carter Vickers, and you see where that got us as well. Yeah, there's a few hours left in the transfer window. Are you confident that we're going to get more bodies in the door? Let us know in the comments section. At the Martin O'Neill event, we were able to raise some more funds for wee Jamie Tierney. We continue to push the fundraising endeavours of Jamie's family. He just turned 5 at the weekend there. Happy birthday to wee Jamie. And if you want to get involved in the fundraising for the wee fella, the link is underneath the page. Please join us again tomorrow at 12:30 for a Celtic State of Mind.